Well, you guys, I was just telling them earlier, I'm nervous like a little kid because New Life has become uh, dear to me, really uncommonly. You guys surprised us and affirmed us the last time we were up there in a beautiful way. And I still brag about it, I still talk about it, and it's affected me uh, in each stage of life. You just keep asking, God, where am I in this time? How am I being received? And for you guys to do that was powerful, and it left a deep impact on me. So I really am. I'm like a little kid getting on. And at any point, if this dips under 7 participants, I just stop talking, as long as we understand that. So if you have some ringers that you can bring in, that would be key. If we go under seven people, I'm just done. Well, Ross asked, John, would you do something that was Cafe-ish or The Cure like? And I thought, wow, I haven't done that in a while because I'm now doing On My Worst Day or The Cure or Cure in Parents or the devotional. And it got me thinking about, oh, how much I love to talk about the very things that you asked. So tonight I've titled this, and then give me a chance to go through this. You may want to take notes on something. If something hits you, just write it on your phone. Um, Hopefully I'll have some one-liners that will be worth that. But I'm calling it tonight, God loving me through my community. And the beauty of how I get to give and receive love in a community, how God has fashioned us for that. And maybe now more importantly than ever. And I want to tell you first, um, when you say that I love people well, Ross, I was a free agent early on. I came to Jesus at age 27, and almost immediately I went to seminary. And I learned a lot of theology, but I was arrogant. I was like a Pharisee. And I came to this community that I am still in now, that my son is pastoring at Open Door Fellowship. And I was preaching, and I didn't know what I was talking about. I was hidden. I judged a ton. And inside, I had this voice track loop going, hey, funny boy, you know, they like you a lot, but I'm on to you. And I'm going to have to expose you. And I'm going to have to call you out, buddy. And you'll thank me for it someday. This, this sense that God, my own God, wanted to, um, that he was, and I wouldn't, I didn't even have anything that I could think of that he would expose me in, but I live with that. I think I preached out of that buck upism and out of that trying to convince you that I was superior. I think I probably for 3 years preached that way. I can't even believe how God allowed that community to let me stay in that role. But eventually they got through to me. A community taught me how to be loved. And it has changed everything for me. God used a community that I don't even think they actually even knew great language for what they were living. They were just living it. Language came later. We now have really good language for it. But then there was just this sense they knew enough about grace. They knew enough about who they were in Christ. They knew enough about permission and protection. They knew enough about environments of grace, how that would work, that they loved me in a way that I'd always before did everything based on my talent. They won't get rid of me because I'm talented. And to find out the only way I could fail in that community was to not let myself be loved. That I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't even know how does somebody live that way. So tonight I want to talk about that. One of the reasons I'm on here tonight is because this community is taking that risk to live this way in grace. And I want to tell you, it will all get tested. It will get tested immensely, not just once. And you'll say, what have we done? And you will fail at it, by the way. You will, in some ways, fail at it almost as often as it gets tested in some way. But if you just stay in the arena with each other and don't go, you will watch magic happen, wonder happen, beauty happen, transformation, restoration, reformation. You will watch the glory of God in your community and the glory of God in the next generation. So I want to encourage you with that. Sometimes I'm going to be reading things tonight, so forgive me when I look down. I wrote, regarding community, many were taught, many of us, to work on our righteousness in private so we could display it in public. Grace teaches us that we are already righteous. And so we get to show what it looks like in public by the humility of trusting others with our limitations. Grace teaches us that we're already righteous, so we get to show what it looks like in public by the humility of trusting others with our limitations. So I want to talk about environments and relationships of grace. That was a key theme in Bose. And then permission and protection. I haven't talked about that in a while. First, I want to give a definition. If I'm going to talk about environments and relationships of grace, I don't want to presume that we all have the same working definitions. So let me give a definition that I've cobbled together over the years. Grace is the absolute and unforced favor gained by Christ's death and resurrection, allowing God to be completely for us and endlessly in love with us, apart from anything we must prove. Grace is an actual realm, a way of life in which we no longer strive for acceptance. We mature, heal, and are released into his intentions by trusting that Jesus and all of his power is fused into us, creating an entirely new person. And I also want to make the statement that grace is not a superior theology perfected to defeat other theologies. I wrote a piece this week and put it up on Facebook, and then I have another one that I had not read for years that a friend gave me, and I go, gosh, how have I been without that statement for a while? So I want to give that one. Grace is not to free us from obeying the heart of God. Grace, I love this picture, is the nutrient-rich soil that seeds of truth drop into so that they're not choked by self-condemnation or failure. Instead, no longer afraid of God's disgust, we can obey God from the heart rather than from compliance. And we grow into a beautiful, healthy, tree-giving shade to others. Grace also is a modus operandi. It's an operating system in that it gives us power that nothing else can give us. I love Romans 6:14. It says, sin will not ever get to be master over you because you're no longer under law, but you're under grace. Sin will no longer have power over you because you're no longer under buck-upism or moralism or striving or putting your best foot forward or wearing a mask. Or sin will not be master over you because you're under this incredible, powerful reality of grace. And the converse, sadly, is true. Sin will be master over you if you allow yourself to stay under the law and not under grace. The power of grace, it actually causes us to sin less and to love more. And I know we have to, as a community, keep, it's like leakage happens all the time. We have to continually make sure we are teaching what grace is saying in relationships. Because if we don't, the drift is always in that direction. And so I wrote for this week, some want to say, yeah, but what about accountability and responsibility to call out sin with this grace stuff? And our response gets to be, you can accomplish that whole calling out the sin stuff by the flesh or by wooing out the new nature to do what it most wants to do. It's not that it's not what, no. Any immature person with a bent towards exhortation can do the first. But you just risk causing the individual to learn to hide better. And you inoculate the community from risking an environment of grace. Learning the art of the second, wooing out each other's new nature. That's where the great beauty is found. So let me talk about this great transaction that God has built into us, permission and protection. You can't have protection without permission. I'm going to say a really ugly statement here, but it's true. It's a really important reality for me to start from. The spiritually immature are not loved well. But it's not because they fail. They are not loved well because they fail to trust the love of another. Because they trust no one, their needs don't get met. And because their needs aren't met, they live in selfishness. So not only do they not receive love, they don't give love very well. That's the spiritually immature. And if you remember, that's Stephen in Beau's Cafe. He needs so much. He sees what this community is all about. He sees Andy can stand, but he's terrified to lose control. He sees Cynthia and Carlos and Hank, and he's terrified to give up control. It's all he's ever had. And so the art of the beauty of the protector is you wait and you stay and you pursue. And you are the one who earns trust. You remember in Beau's Cafe, Andy almost gave up. Andy almost said, Stephen, you're not ready. You're going to self-destruct and I can't stop it. So remember what in the gospel, John, Jesus says, I'm going to give you a new commandment. That you love one another, even as I've loved you, that you would love one another. And as we've said before, it's not the 11th commandment. It's a whole new order of commandment. And for the first time, a human being has a heart that will not rebel from a command. It's interesting. It's not even really a command. It's what my new heart most wants to do, is to love you. At the core of who I am, I'm a lover. I'm not selfish. At the core of Christ in John Lynch, at the core of the heart of Robin and Ian and Lori and Greg and Paul and Joy and Peter and Dan and Jody, in the heart of all of us, the most real me wants to love well. So it's like an invitation. You guys, I'm going to tell you the one thing that you get to do is love one another. And now you realize, for that to happen, there have to be some lovees. There have to be ones who allow themselves then to be loved. I love how Galatians, by the way, follows up the gospel. When Paul takes it, he goes, okay, remember that? I'm going to give you one thing to do. I love what he says. In Galatians 6:2, he says, bear one another's burdens. And when you do that, you will fulfill that one law, that one commandment that Jesus asked of you. Bear one another's burdens. Learn to be trusted so much that you can draw closer when another fails. Learn to be trusted so that other person can allow themselves to share that burden. You've also heard us say, and I say us because I come from this organization called True Face, and now recently I'm, as you know, have become John Lynch Speaks. I still speak sometimes for True Face, but they're mostly developing curriculum, and so when I go on the road, I am creating materials or writing some more on my worst day through John Lynch Speaks, and it's a brand new 501c3, and I was doing great for about a month until they shut us down. That was so beautiful. It was just outstanding. And so this is what I get to do now. This is how I go travel. By the way, before I go any further, I just want you to see right there, that's my Volkswagen clock. Okay, so on every tour I give, that would be there. And there's my Mercy Me little album that they gave me in honor of me and True Face kind of standing with them in helping to discover new lyrics. So that's a very beautiful, beautiful, sweet thing. And outside that window is like temperatures in the 90s. I know. Don't hate me, please. I know it snowed there today. I can't help it. In fairness, it's going to get so hot here. It's going to be unlivable. People go into caves. Anyways, I digress. You've heard us say, love is the process of meeting needs. Anything else is hallmark sentimentality. Love, you never see Jesus talking about love. You never hear God talking about love without it meeting a need. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. He met a need because of that. One of the stunning concepts that I've been thinking the last several years, as Bill Thrall, I think, first said it to me, we were created with limitation. God allowed you and I to be created with limitation. Why? Why would he do that? It sounds like you didn't have to do that. Why did he do it? Why did he create me with limitation? So that I could be loved. If I don't have any limitation, then you never get to love me. You can admire me, respect me, you can be impressed by me, but you never get to love me. So God says, uh, I'm going to give you some limitations so that you can be loved. And this is the indictment on communities where it's fake, where we put on a show, where we put on a religious show, is when we bluff like we don't have any needs, we never experience another's love. That's the, if there's anything about inauthentic communities that is damning, that may be the most. It is horrible. When I bluff like I have no needs, you don't ever get to love me. So receiving love, it always comes first before I can give love. We love only when we first learn how to receive the love of God and others. All in the gospel, or in the letter of 1 John, we love because he first loved us. And so as Galatians 6:2, I want to earn your trust, because otherwise I never get to help a person. I never get to love them. I never get to meet their needs, because I can never get behind into the things that they're actually thinking. I want to earn the trust so that you will eventually, in conversation, in a restaurant, or on a hike, or when something horrible has happened, that you finally get to say the lies that you carry about God and yourself. And I think of the ones that I carry about myself, that I over the years have carried, but fortunately, for the most part, I've allowed myself to be loved and allowed people into those lies to where they could be exposed. If they don't get exposed, they become self-permission, self-justification for any number of failures. I've thought at one time or another, God, I think this sin issue is too strong for you, so I give up. So that's how that goes. God, I think this sin satisfies me more than you, and so eventually I'll give myself permission to fail. Or God, I don't think you've taken care of me the way you maybe take care of that person or them. And all of them become justifications for selfishness, for me not getting to live out the thing that I really am, a lover. So a lover wants to be able to earn the right to get to have those conversations, because boom, once they come out into the light of day, they have no chance. They have no power. You've heard us say that before. It's less important that anything ever gets fixed than that nothing has to be hidden. It's because the power of sin is in its hiddenness. So if I can have that permission to be a safe place for you to not hide, we doggies, gosh. So think about that process. We call it the control cycle at times, but think of that process of what takes place in failure. I get aroused, or something hits my attention, or there's something in there I see, or an old habit or an old thing reawakens. And typically the next thing that happens is my shame kicks in and says, here it is again. Okay, I'm going to fail. I always fail. That's what I do. I fail. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, maybe I don't know. but that's what I do because I'm a failure. And then eventually, somewhere over time, I give myself permission to fail. Maybe that's maybe an 8-second choice or a month. Uh, and then, what's crazy is what we do next is we think, okay, I will resist it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to resist it. Now think of how insane that is. I am trying to resist the very sin that I've already given myself permission to do. Resistance won't win the day on those familiar compulsions or behaviors. You know what will win the day? When I learn to confess the sin that I intend to do. When I learn to confess to somebody else and out myself, because the power of the sin is in its hiddenness, and it is broken when I choose to reveal my intentions. It's great to always tell on anything about yourself when you failed, but how much more beautiful, because it stops the cycle for me to be able to say, Jerry, I haven't done anything, but I think I'm intending to do this. And Jerry will say, I'll be right over. And you'll say, I don't think you have to be. I think it just got broken. That's the power of permission and protection. I want to tell you that this never gets easier. I have some beautiful friendships. I have some very wonderfully trusted friendships. But there's something that my shame does when I have to tell the truth about what's going on inside of me. I don't want to be the needy one. I don't want to be the person who just doesn't ever get it and everybody else seems to be getting it. And that very thinking will inoculate me from getting well. So I want you to hear, this doesn't ever just get easy. One, because I want you to love me. I want you to respect me. I want you to be impressed by me. So why don't I just hide this? But remember the power of whatever that thing, the moment I can stop and say, whoa, 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 whoa. I haven't even given myself permission to anything. I've just felt that allurement or strange thing that has hit me. I just want to tell you, boom, power is broken. So how does this work? Start with me, the protector, and think about the one who wants to be protected by me. The degree to which I trust you, the protectee to the protector, the degree to which I trust you is the degree to which you can love me and help meet my needs, no matter how much love you have for me. The degree to which I trust you is the degree that you can love me, no matter how much love you have for me. Wow. So that's crazy. Why aren't you earning my trust? Why do I have to earn your trust? I'm the one here to help you. But remember, that's their very issue, is trusting. And so for you to be able to say, the onus is on me. I want to earn your trust. And I earn it through a dozen different ways. Remember, integrity is simply being able to do that for which you say you can do. And being able to also say, you know what, I don't think I have the capacity, or for whatever reason, I can't. Because if I say that I can and I don't, I will harm that person so much. So I get it by asking, by simply saying, I want to earn your trust because I think that's how I'll get to love you. How would I do that? And the person knows, by the way. How will I earn your trust? And then for me to own it when I fail, because I will fail in it. Gosh, you're doing such a heroic thing. But the lover will fail. I will fail. And to be able to own it and say that was on me, especially my kids. And then to continually keep pursuing, not just saying, I'll wait till you come to me, and to ask forgiveness, and to show up, and to be able to say this statement in some age-appropriate way. How am I affecting you? All that is building and earning trust. See, I want to earn your trust so that you might want to give me permission to protect you, and you will end up hiding nothing in the safety of, get this, of my commitment. That's where the safety is. You mean you're committed to me? Yeah. Even if I fail? Yeah. Wow. Then unresolved issues are brought into the light for healing. That's why we say, what if there was a place so safe that the worst of me could be known, and I would discover that I would be loved more, not less, in the telling of it? What if there was a place in my marriage, my friends, in a counseling relationship, in a community, in a small group, even in an employer-employee relationship? What if there was a place so safe that not with everybody, man, I do not let everybody know the worst about me, but some know the worst about me. What if there was a place so safe that the worst of me could be known? And miracle of miracles, I would discover I'm not going to be loved less. They actually love me more. And you know that that's true. You've seen it to be true. When someone pours out their heart to you and shares an area of vulnerability and need, your heart is drawn. You know them more. You are being given the permission to protect them and help meet a need. Oh my gosh, that's what love is. And you become, that's how lifelong friends get developed, in baring their throats to each other and saying, oh my gosh, you didn't leave me. I didn't lose my seat at the table. Wow, you drew closer to me. And it never gets used against the other. It never gets played against them. It demands that we see each other as saints, not just saved sinners. A negative influencer will measure your righteousness by how little you sin. A positive influencer is convinced that you are righteous already. So they are more interested in how you are receiving and giving love. That's their end game. So everybody has needs. And God says, I am going to use human beings to, in the flesh, get to meet those needs that I am desiring from heaven to have you have met. And some of those can only be met by God. But there are needs that He allows me, a human being, to stand with another. All of us have the need for attention. And without it, we get sick. All of us have the need for security. All of us have the need for security. All of us have the need for direction. All of us have the need for affirmation. Affirmation is sacred. Without it, though, I don't know who I am. It is a need. Kids who grow up without a coach or a parent or someone affirming them, and letting them know who they are, how they're seen, and blessing them, they don't know who they are when they grow up. So we all have need for affirmation. We have need for love. Huge need for love. Gosh, for needs meeting love, for protective love. And we all have need for protection. So those are needs that God allows us to meet. So I'm going to end this little talk part, and then let us go into some question and answer if you'd like. I want to finish with this. Let me say then, I look at you maybe and I go, okay, I have a need. I have a significant need. And I've watched your life, and I think you could meet that need. So what do I do? First, I have to acknowledge that I really do have needs, and not just try to tough up and say it's just God and I. And then here's the key. I've got to express to you a desire for you to meet one of my needs with an expression of your love. I must express a desire for you to meet one of my needs with an expression of your love. And if you say to me, yeah, in my integrity, I think I could, then I must choose to let you meet my need. And that letting is the trust that I place in you. So I must let you meet my need, and that letting is the trust that I'm putting in you. Not that you're God, not that you're magic, but that you have the ability, like, to protect me in a particular area, to care for me and give me that attention that I feel like I don't know how to get, and it's messing me up. When I trust you, when I trust you, your person, and I trust that you actually can do that, and I let you do that, I am receiving your love. That's the only way I really get to receive your love. And it meets my needs. And when my needs are met, I get fulfilled. So you guys, thank you. That's just a primer on the reality of how grace works and environments of grace work in permission and protection, so that a community has these growing relationships of health that allow it to be authentic, needs meeting, health giving, releasing, freeing, beautiful, messy. And that's what I've watched you guys for some time, the time that I've known about you, that you're placing your risk on that. And I'm so grateful.
That was beautiful, John. A couple things that it was interesting. You'd make a comment, and I'm like, oh, I got to ask him this question, and you went and answered the question. So, but one of the things that stood out to me there was this idea of between the one offering love and the one needing love. That I love that idea. The onus is on the one to offer it, to earn the trust.
That's right.
And in doing so, what's great about that is my goal is now only to offer.
Amen.
It's not to change. It's not to alter. It's not to fix. It's not to control. I've accomplished my goal in offering.
Amen.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm grabbing a book. And
always back.
I just left you guys, just said, you know what, this has been good, but I'm gone. I love This is the very thought that you're saying, because God's primary, and we write it in the Cure in Parents, because God's primary goal is earning my trust so he can love me and increasingly mature and correct my behavior and free my life. I get to attempt to offer the same for my child, and the same could be said for a friend. God has done endlessly more than enough to have earned my trust, but he knows until I actually practically trust him, very little that he desires for me will come to pass. My lack of trust comes from my fear of trust, not his worthiness to be trusted. So, because he loves me so deeply, he continually reveals himself as trustworthy, breaking down my fears and walls of self-preservation. And as I grow to trust the perfectly trustworthy one, I heal and I mature and I become free. It's why David calls out, oh, taste and see that the Lord's good.
Mhm.
And so that's the beautiful onus that a lover gets to put on themselves, to offer themselves to a Stephen or whoever.
So a couple questions. One question was someone asked quickly, what book was that from?
Oh, that's the Cure in Parents. That it's not our most recent book. One of our most. I really love uh, the approach that we got to take on the Cure in Parents. And I think it's an exceedingly helpful book. But the principle that I just shared there is true for any relationship. It just
Universal.
say that again.
It's universal.
It is universal, and it's how God deals with me. He doesn't put the onus of trust onto me. John, would you just trust? He reveals himself as trustworthy. And I find myself saying, oh, will you meet this need, Father? And there's some that he allows humans to meet. We gave that kind of short list of those. And he actually, it's incumbent that I receive them from humans, or I can get very sick. Did I lose you guys? I went away. Am I back?
Yeah, no, we
I'm
were
back
muted.
here. All right.
Oh, okay, good.
So then the question then is this idea of, while the lover, the onus is on them to offer that love. It's not that the one being loved is passive.
Right.
Right.
I have to make a choice. Stephen had to make a choice. Am I going to allow myself to receive your love?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the pain has to be great enough,
Mm-hmm.
because trusting is scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary for us. Um, I don't know how to tell you without fear that you'll never have me back again, how many years it took me to trust my wife, Stacy, with my heart. I trusted her in a lot of ways, but these things of the shame that was in me, the embarrassment that was in me, I didn't want her to know. I didn't want her to know because I feared that she would not love me, that she would not want to stay, that she would, uh, the, the fear of trusting her with my past. It, it was in the writing of The Cure when someone hurt my heart with their criticism of the book right before it was going to go to print. And the way Stacy had waited for that day when I finally gave her permission, I said, Stacy, I don't know what to do. I need you. Help me. I'm embarrassed. I'm devastated. And the way it's like, here's the deal. If you don't trust someone and you get embarrassed, after a while, you can only stay embarrassed so long. And then you have to turn it on the other. Mm-hmm. And then people get hurt. And so I used to hurt Stacy's heart, and I didn't know why. because I was just couldn't stay in my embarrassment long enough, and she would pay, or I'd get in a sideways with one of the kids, or at the elders meeting. And that day when she said, my husband, I know who you are. And I know that you believe those words that you've written. And I know that that book is going to have a beautiful impact. And if this person who said those unkind, really mean things knew that, they might not have said them. Now come home. I've got you. And I will protect you. And I have a great meal laid out for you. And as I said, she met me at the door and kissed me like a rabbit on furlough. And she says, I've got string lights over the patio in the backyard, and I've got your meal ready and a fire going. And it's like she had prepared for that day when she would have the opportunity to be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, a beautiful thing happened that night. Nobody got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Lynch line, it's like there was this shift that will get to play itself out in the Lynch generations because of that day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm embarrassed to say that was years into our marriage. I trusted her, trusted that she would stay, all those things. But to trust somebody with that place in your heart, you have to choose to do that. And so there is also an onus on the lovey.
So one person makes this comment, and I think it speaks to the lie that we often believe, that in telling on myself, people are going to think less of me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so Matt wrote this. He said, the idea of telling on myself often scares the crap out of me. That the biblical word for crap is dung, Matt, just so you know.
Yeah.
But it often scares the crap out of me, but it's so powerful. I've witnessed how it establishes more trust and grows love with those I trust enough to tell on myself with.
Amen.
I just want to say thank you for showing me this idea.
Wow. That's so beautiful. You are so spot on. You're so right on. And we know it, don't we? If someone comes to me and says, I want you to know something, and I'm scared to tell you, but I'm going to tell it to you. My heart is never, 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 never can I think of a time where I went, oh, you loser, you pitiful loser. How do I distance myself from you? You gross me out. You are, I wish you'd never been born. We never do that. Because Christ in me, the most real me, wants to love. When you give me the opportunity to have a need that I can meet, see, this is the converse side of this. In relationships, I think of marriages. When I don't let my spouse love me, it's painful and damaging to them. It's like they were created to love. And when we, in some misguided and sadly, gender-wise, it may be more about men, when we think we have to provide or something like that, and so we don't let our hearts be known because we want to be this with our kids, that we've got it right. Well, then they never get a chance to love us. Our kids don't get a chance to love us. Our friends don't get a chance to love us. Our spouse doesn't get a chance to love us. And that is when we break that code and we dare to say, I need you. And I'm not even sure how to ask. That's the only reason we do that little step-by-step thing at the end there, is just to say, you could actually say this. And when you do, when someone asks for me, when they need me, I run. All I want is my life to count. All I want is to get to be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I'm made for. So when you give me that permission, We all know. That's what was so beautiful about it. As scary as it is, it scares the crap out of us because we don't want to be seen as the weakling. We don't want to be seen as the needy one in the community. Everybody's needy at different times. Everybody.
So on that point, Lori asked this question: if others in your life have refused to affirm you and asking for it then seems terrifying, can you get the affirmation you need from God alone?
Mm, mm, mm. Well, the answer is God has people in this world who will want to affirm you. So if I do not have a community or those people around me who can affirm me, who are willing to affirm me, um, I will pursue it for a while. I can pursue it for a while, but I have to go eventually to where I can try it out. I'm constantly trying out affirmation. Affirmation, God has created that way for us to love each other in that way. What does he say in Proverbs 27? Let another praise you and not your own mouth. When we brag on ourselves, it's because there's been no one around to do it for me. And remember that statement, um, affirmation never puffs up our hearts. Instead, it humbles us and causes us to want to do more of what we've been affirmed for in the place that affirmed us. So it's so beautiful and wise for a community to learn to have settings, birthday parties, what any of those occasions, weddings, graduations, to where we can use as a tool and just be able to look into someone's eyes and say, I want you to know how I see you. I want you to know what I see God doing in you. And I want you to know I saw it last week and it was beautiful. And I want you to know a lot of us can see it. And I remember on my birthday, we used to do a thing in our office where we used to have an affirmation time. You'd sit in the middle and they'd create a circle around you and each one would take turns looking you in the eye and saying, here's the three things that I want to say that I affirm you most in. I had to leave right after that to go to lunch. I had a lunch appointment and I was out in the parking lot waiting for that person and I just started involuntarily sobbing because these were all the things that were said about me that day were the things that I'd given to God early in my faith and said, please, God, let me be that. Let me be that. Let me be for good. And here it was, human beings from the Spirit of God speaking to my heart, literally God speaking to my heart through a human being. That's how God affirms me. God can, I know he loves me. I know he loves me individually, but he will use individuals, humans, to affirm, for it to come all the way from God to me. And the only onus on that part is that, Ross, if you affirm me like you affirmed me that night, and you said my best years are ahead of me, I had to believe that you weren't blowing smoke. Mm-hmm. I had to believe that you were, that still rocks me. I had to believe you. And then I could receive it from God. Mm-hmm. And it would be from God to me, and it would change me. It would actually transform me. Yeah. Ross, you did that. That's what you guys, that's what we've got to do for each other. That's what we get to do for each other. But by the way, there aren't any people that I know that don't have something beautiful that's invisible that I can't affirm about them. Affirmation is the currency. It is the language of an environment of grace.
Mm-hmm. So he could do it alone, but he chooses not to.
Well, we become God with flesh on. We become that vehicle that he could use. He is always affirming my heart, but specifically, directionally wise, he'll use other humans to be able to do that.
Yeah. Andre asked this great question. How do you balance meeting the needs of others with the risk of becoming codependent?
Yeah, gosh. Mm. Well,
And she asked that question, but I know that one's for me. So that's
well, and that's another value in a community. Love will never create codependency, but I can have a distortion of love where love does not mean I meet every one of your needs. Love knows I can meet a need or some, and I can't own everything. And that's what integrity is. Remember, the ability to say, I can't meet this one. I'm for whatever reason, God has not even given me the permission to be able to meet this one. But this also is where a larger community is valuable for you to be able to say to me, Joy, John, this doesn't feel right. May I have permission to speak into your heart and say, this doesn't feel healthy for that individual or for you, because I can't see it all the time. Right? I always say, I can see you accurately, pretty accurately, but the only one I can't see really accurately is me. I can't direct me. And so that's why I need a community close enough that we can see if that is becoming codependent. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Someone asks this question, again, on the same topic here. Are we in seasons between offering and giving love? And what if we find ourselves looking to receive more than give? And how do we handle if we're looking to give love but don't have the trust of others? So there's kind of 3 questions in there.
Yeah, yeah. And let me just, as they come into my mind, I don't trust anybody who I don't see letting someone protect them. If they're not a person who who trusts others with them, I will never come under their protection because I don't trust it. What I said first is I need to be a lovey first. Now that's I can think of my example with and someone's going to say, stop touching your face. But I'm not out in public, so that's good.
Mine all the time.
Oh, I think like 800 times a day involuntarily. But initially, I remember my dear friend Bill Thrall, he knew that I had capacity, knew that I was a good man, he knew I was Christ in me, but he knew how immature I was. And so he chose to invest in me and stay with me and bear the possible ramifications of standing with me, and for his reputation, for everything. And so in those days, I was so needy of being known, of being cared for, of being protected, that it was a disproportionate, disordinate amount of my receiving. Somewhere in there, it kind of morphed. I never stopped needing to receive, but I get to now sometimes give more than I'm getting to receive. I realize how many conversations I have where I go, nobody asked about me tonight. And I think, what is that? And I used to get sad about it or offended about it, but I'm realizing, wait, no, you need me. You need me for you. You need to know my affirmation of you. You need to know my attention of you. And so in some relationships, that happens for a while. It's a beautiful privilege and gift when in some relationships it's kind of disproportionate.
Jeremy asked this question: do you think there are certain struggles or fears that we'll take to the grave instead of being completely free from? And if so, why do you think God allows that? So past hurt, past abuse, that sort of thing.
There are some people who say that our family line, family of origin, does not carry transmissible power. I disagree with that. I really think I got to break a Lynch family line that evening that I talked to you about with Stacy. I really do. And one of the things that is a great way of looking at it is, if I receive healing through protection, through protective love, if a need is met, and it's a significant one of one that is damaging me, that has been harming me, it will change me, it will transform me, but it will giantly transform my kids. And I may not even see it in my grandkids. Isn't that beautiful? That time in history, in the generation of Lynches, boom, where John Lynch allows someone to love them in a way over time that change, that way of seeing is different. I'll see some in my life, but my kids will be the huge recipients, and my grandkids may not even know that such a trait existed in our family line. I'm 67, so there's about 42 things that if they don't get resolved pretty quickly, I will carry to the grave. And you ask the question, why would God do such a thing? Because the goal of this life is not sinless perfection. The goal of this life is not being free from enough issues. The goal of this life is dependency, is for me to learn dependency, because it frees me. It gives me health even in the middle of issues that are not yet resolved. So that's huge for me, is to learn dependency on Christ all the way to the grave, and dependency on a few friends that I can count on to be there. So, gosh, Stacy would say 42. He may be low on that, but that's true of every single human being. There's nobody who gets that slate finished off in this lifetime.
For those that are, at New Life, we're trying to create this environment and community of grace, and we're learning, and far from perfect, as you said. No one's going to be, but some might be watching this video that are in an environment where the opposite is being pursued, where that room of good intentions and moralism and looking good is really the goal. So Andre asked this question: how do you live this out in a church setting where what you're describing is not the norm?
Yeah. Sometimes you can't. There's no law that says you have to stay in an unhealthy spiritual environment. If after a while, you've tried affirmation, you've tried all these things that we've talked about, and it's not received. In fact, you become a dissonant voice. You become a negative and untrusted voice, because law has a really strong power, doesn't it? And its adherents are threatened by any freedom. And so when you have a system where appearances make the man or the woman, and someone comes in who it's threatening. And so what I want to say is sometimes in that community, and you'll know fairly quickly, you can be an incredible agent for change. You might be the first person on the beach, and a pastor will end up saying, "Where'd you get this? I've always wanted this, but I didn't know this was possible." How many people have you talked to over time and they've seen in your community grace, and they're almost angry? They've said, "Where's this been the last 20 years? Why have I not known this?" And you go, some combination of blinders on your own eyes and you simply not having had it modeled before. So we can be a beautiful gift, but after a period of time, you will get unhealthy bucking against that system. So it's okay. It is okay to find a community of health. Now, that's hard because sometimes what I just asked is for you to break cultural bounds. Like, well, this is where my family grew up. This is where all my relatives are. So I know how hard that is. And I also know there's people watching this. Um, Gosh, when we put out Bo's Cafe, we have a high view of the community of fellowship called the church. And some have been burned so badly, and they wake up and they're so wounded that they were offended at that we would ever ask them to go back into such any kind of a community. So it's a very fragile dance, and for us to be sensitive that people are walking into our community with such a low quotient of trust because they have been burned. And I made this statement. I just want to say it real quickly. I one day in a message asked a question: how long did it take for you to know that you were safe here? And safety in a community has this palpable feel because of the commitment of its leaders. If the, and same thing in a family, if there's a commitment amongst those leaders to stay and to love each other through hard stuff, it creates for the person walking in the door. I said, how long did it take? And I asked, raise your hand. This was in a church service, and I had no idea why I wasn't even asking it. It wasn't in my notes. And I said, did it take 2 years? And for some of you, maybe you've not experienced safety yet. But if you have, was it 2 years? Raise your hand. Nobody raised their hand. Year and a half. I did 8 months. 2 months. I got down to less than 5 minutes. And as honestly as I could tell, everybody in the room raised their hand. That within 5 minutes of a healthy community where its leaders had committed to protect each other, that there's something palpable and tangible that the person coming in could feel. Either way, you could feel something. Haven't you walked into a setting where you go, I got to watch my back here? I'm being, even now, judged. I'm being watched. I better look over my shoulder. There's something that a community environment of grace gets to offer people that is.
Mm-hmm. We got a couple more questions here. Peter asks a question: what I hear when you talk about finally opening up to Stacy is surrender and to trust. Do you think that complete surrender with Christ needs to happen first, or do they work hand in hand? So do you in order to trust yourself with Stacy, do you first have to trust Jesus?
Yeah, and I don't know that. I'm going to make a hobby horse, and some of it's semantics. I don't like the word surrender because it's kind of a military term. I don't like God's going, are you going to surrender? And I don't think he does that. I think he woos me. I think it's the kindness of God that leads me to repentance. So I'm never, ever thinking, I think he's constantly revealing himself as trustworthy for that day when John Lynch will say, "You're real, aren't you? I need you. Will you care for?" So I don't know. I know that had to be going on with Jesus before that day with Stacy, but I couldn't tell you how that played out or when that played out. I think yes and.
Mhm. Matt says this. He says, "There's a story in On My Worst Day about doing yard work that you did not want to do for your father.
A
He says
pyracantha. Yeah.
he's wondering if you could retell it because it really impacted him, but I haven't been able to fully recall it every time it comes to my mind. I believe it relates to this idea of affirmation and how powerful it can be. So, would you be willing to retell that story?"
Is it so hard for you to buy the book? I mean, come on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was low hanging.
And that's a little cheap. So,
I'm sorry. It was, like I said, low hanging fruit. Um, my father and I did not have a good relationship when I was in high school. In fact, he was a Mensa genius mathematician. The only thing I ever did badly in school was math. If for some reason he and I did, I don't know. I couldn't tell. There were myriad of reasons. I don't know that I've ever figured them out. One day in the summertime, and usually we battled over chores and things I had to do, um, and I'd rebel against, I'd fight against them, I'd do them the last minute. This really difficult relationship between a son and parents in terms of being part of the family, of owning anything, whatever they were trying, it wasn't working, and whatever I was doing it was just rebellion. I really was a truly rebellious teenager. One summer day, between my junior and senior year, my dad, before work, I just still remember it, in the carport, he said, "Oh, John, could you come here for a second? I just wanted to tell you, I don't always say it well, and I don't always know how to show it to you. You're an amazing young man. We don't always get along really well, but I watch how people respond to you, and I watch how you care for your friends, and I watch how you care for your mom sometimes. I just want to tell you, I'm sorry I don't say it more, but I'm proud of you. And if I get home early enough tonight, would you play catch with me?" And then he got in the car and went to work, and my summer day was ruined. We have this plant called pyracantha bush, and it's proof that there is a Satan, because it has barbed wires. It has no function, no value at all in society. Its berries are poisonous. Anyways, it was taking over our backyard, and he had been demanding that I would trim that pyracantha for the longest time. I went out into the shed after he said that. He never asked me to do it. And I found these hedge trimmers. They were rusted. They were ones you pull them and then you'd have to jam them back up again. And I went and took that hedge trimmers. I didn't have any gloves. It was the middle of summer. It's 115, 110 in Phoenix. And I trimmed those pyracantha bushes. I mean, I took basket and garbage can of pyracantha to the alley. My arms are bleeding from carrying pyracantha and trimming it. And not even for a second am I thinking of, "Oh, I wish this could be over." The only thing I am thinking, now this is a rebellious kid, the only thing I'm thinking is, what is my dad? What's the look on his face when he sees that pyracantha? I want to make him happy. And he did. He came home. heard the car turn off. I went into my bedroom to where I could see the pyracantha through the slats in my bedroom window. And Mom took Dad out to see. I had picked up everything. It was like a carpet of cleanness. And I think I spelled the Lynch name out in letters in pyracantha. And my dad went out there and I saw the smile on his face. Isn't that crazy? Before I even knew Christ, it was built into me. That desire when I'd been affirmed and loved, it humbled my heart and caused me to want to do more of what I'd been affirmed for in that environment that affirmed me. And it changed the course of my relationship with my father and I. Not completely, not perfectly, not straight line, but I would say that day is something I've never forgotten. Isn't it crazy? It was 1969, and I still can see myself looking through the slats of my window. So that is a profound gift when it's not used as manipulation, when it's not used as a ploy or as a tool, but a sincere statement of how you see the person. Don't ever hold back on that.
We love because he first loved us.
Yeah.
In Matt's defense, he says he has the audiobook, but I wouldn't believe him.
Tell Matt, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's good. So tell us a little bit about John Lynch Speaks as we kind of wrap things up here. You kind of talked a little bit about that, but what's it about?
Well, for the longest time, Bill, Bruce, and John, we wrote together and got these truths out. And then at some point, though, you want to have a new CEO, you want to have a new board, you want to have, so this thing will pass on to the next generation, just like at Open Door. So I kind of stepped out of the pulpit at Open Door. And so we have a new CEO now, Robbie Angle, and he's a magnificent guy. And True Face is no longer in Phoenix, it's in Atlanta, Georgia. So at some point, as Robbie's statement about True Face was always, you guys get an A+ for giving us language. You get a D+ for making it scalable. He just said, you just don't know what to do with this gold that you have. And so he said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to change the message at all, but let me get it out there in curriculum in ways that you guys just didn't have the chops to do, because that's not what you were called to do. So now we're really not on the road that much with True Face, but that's what I do. That's the love of my heart, is to go be with people in their community and maybe have them, just by having me get to model in front of them that way of life, that they can become more convinced of its doability, that they're not just seeing a talking head, but they're seeing a person who believes this, really believes this. So it's what I love to do. I want to give practical application. That's why by Lazarus, beautiful group down the road with Josh and Robin and Amber and Amy and all of them, they're helping me make these series of videos, these 5 to 7 minute pieces that hopefully are helping families and parents and marriages. And I like I say, sometimes grace can be presented as a superior theology, and we win and we've got it right and we understand New Covenant, but that's not enough. It has to be transferable. It has to, we have to see how it can be lived out. And so to whatever extent I can do that, I love doing that. I love to paint pictures. I love to tell stories. I love to be self-effacing to where I can earn trust by someone knowing, oh, he doesn't have an agenda. He's not working me. He's not playing me. He's telling on himself. I want to do that. So that's what John Lynch Speaks is. It is through writings, Facebook writings, through the writings that go along with the videos that we're doing, through the books that I'm writing in Expanding on My Worst Day. And then I can't wait to write next after that on my best day. So excited about that. Right now, it's the best 2 sentences. It's such a good 2 sentences, but giving time on it. So I think in the time that I have left, I love to do it. And I was at the first event, I got to do the Mercy Me cruise again. We've done that many times. We love it. It was such a great kickoff for John Lynch Speaks. And then I did event after event, and beautiful. I thought, this is going to be great. I was worn out. I said, Stacy, how am I going to do this? I'm a month in. I'm too old. I'm in too many airports. And then everything shut down. and you know what's interesting is John Lynch has never spoken as much. I'm getting to do this. I've got 7 of these events in the next week, and I'm getting to write more of pieces and respond to people on social media. I didn't know. I know this is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing in this virus, but God is doing in each of our families, in career-wise, He's showing us things that we never thought we'd see and understand. And that's happening for me in John Lynch Speaks. So I'm exceedingly thankful. And we were saying it before, I'm going to take this office and move out all the furniture and turn it into a studio. A friend who does that for a living is helping me do it. And then I'll be able to, using Facebook Live or Zoom or some of the other apps, be able to be there and not be there, and still have that relational intimacy and question asking and all that. So I'm hoping that might be a template for John Lynch Speaks in the future. But you guys, your community, and I know this video is going to go out beyond this community, but you guys, in the kindest way, stood with me, even last summer, whenever it was. It was a while back, 6 years back. What was it, November? December? I don't know. It was back then. But that is, you guys have beautifully stood with John Lynch Speaks. I'm really, really grateful.
So where can they hear these videos, watch the videos, read your writings? Where can they find you?
Yeah, well, you guys all know, but for anybody else, johnlynchspeaks.com, johnlynchspeaks.com, and you can go to John Lynch Speaks on Facebook, but johnlynchspeaks.com will take you, boom, right to our website. You can get on and sign up. I do 2 devotionals each month. By the way, I'm due to get a couple in very soon. But you get 2 of those a month, and you can have every video to watch. They're all, there's dozens and dozens of them now that you can watch and have for any occasion. And a lot of other fun things. It tells you when I'm going to be on the road. You know
the answer to that. We'd all love to hear.
Yeah.
Lori's wondering if you'll ever do another cruise with Mercy Me.
Well, we're supposed to in January. We've got another one scheduled, but I don't know if that'll happen or not. I don't know if they'll get backlogged, but it is sacred to me that they, this message, it got to Bart, the lead singer for Mercy Me. It got to him at a time in his life where he would say, I was just the ugliest of moralists, and I did not know these truths. And it got to him at a hard part in his life, and it transformed the way Bart thinks, sees, raises his kids, the way he writes lyrics. If you look at Welcome to the New or any of his last 2 albums, carry this message of grace and identity in Christ. And he can't stop saying thank you. So he could have anyone he'd want on those cruises. but he keeps having Rusty Kennedy and myself and Tim Timmons, and because he just goes, I want this message while I'm still have this influence. And, I can only imagine, while I have that influence, I want that voice being given to them. So he let me go on tour with them. I mean, this old man in those little sleeping berths that are for a 5'7" person, but just precious, sacred gift of getting to do that. And those are the kinds of things that I get to do, that I just go, God, who are we? How in the world? I never saw this coming. So exceedingly grateful.
Well, John, we love what you've been able to offer us. This is a gift for us. And so I think Robin's going to kind of unmute everyone just to give everyone a chance to say thank you.
Oh, gosh, that's
and
great.
But while he's doing that, let me just quickly pray for you.
Thank you.
Father, we love the gift that John is to us, to not just us as New Life Fellowship, but to the larger body of Christ. And the blessing and the opportunities that you will provide for him. And that even with the COVID-19 and not being able to travel, this wonderful message of love and invitation to experience grace, something more than a theology.
Yeah.
You are able to continue to share that. You're able to continue to offer that through John and Stacy in this ministry. So would you continue to amplify their reach?
Yeah.
Allow more people to not only hear, but to risk, to actually risk that what John is saying is the truth. So that as a result, your body, the church, can shine brightly in this time. And this would be, what an opportunity for your light to shine in this darkness, for your name to be glorified. And so just do what you're doing, Father. We love you. We thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
And amen, amen, amen. Thank you so much. Thank you.